What's going on, family? I haven't had a haircut in about a month, maybe a month and a week. And of course, this whole ordeal that we're all dealing with right now is not a motivating factor to necessarily keep good grooming habits, but I think it's just good practice, and also just a good skill to have of cutting and grooming yourself. So I've been doing this for the last 5 years, 4.5 years on my own self, cutting my hair, and grooming whatever facial hair I decide to rock. But I got a request from somebody today on just a simple tutorial video or how to on managing your hair, how to line yourself up, how to trim yourself down. So I'm just gonna show you a short video. Depending on how long this quarantine lasts, or if I choose to make another video, I'm gonna try to do different types of haircuts. So the first haircut I'm gonna show is a bald fade, which is typically what I always give myself. It lasts long. I don't necessarily care to have waves around my full head, 360 waves, because that's a process. So I just choose to do it simple and have waves on the top of my head. Have nothing right now, as you can see, but after this haircut I have a little something. But you've seen the pictures of what I use, the real basic tools of a all-purpose clipper. This is like a $20 clipper at Walgreens. Wahl, really basic, and it has a lever. So anytime you're fading or tapering, you want a clipper that has this on the side, so that you can have more freedom when it comes to blending aspects of your hair. Blending is harder when you first start, but the more you understand this lever, the easier it gets. So I'm using this clipper, and then this is just like for the outline. So when I'm lining up my edges and whatnot, this is what I use for that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is bring my hair all even around. So I'm gonna start off with this one guard. It'll have the 1/8 inch. Every single brand has different guards, and they look a little bit different, but you just want to make sure the spacing looks like this for the level that I'm going to cut my hair down to. So this is step one for me. And I have this lever open. So when it's open, that means that the blade is farther back. When it's closed, the blade is closer to the second metal piece. They're almost even when it's closed. When it's open, they're farther back, they're farther separated. So I'm gonna leave it open because I want more hair on the top. I want it to still be dark. So I'm gonna cut this down. So for now, this is good enough. You can just consider step one like your canvas for your haircut. So everything is probably not perfectly even the way the end of the haircut is going to be, but for now it's good enough for me to start my fade. So the second step of the fade, like I said, I gave myself a bald fade. So now I'm going to close this guard completely so that it gets as close to the skin as possible that this guard is capable, that this clipper is capable of. So I have it closed all the way. All I'm gonna do is kind of create my level one at the bottom of my head, which is closest to my skin. So I'm starting like right in the middle of my ear almost, and I'm coming up. Literally like right where that line, that little curve starts, I'm bringing it right to the top of the curve. I'm gonna do that all the way around my head. Now I got that. If you wanna see the back, still gotta do the same thing you did when you were bringing your hair down. You gotta have that mirror. Okay, so I brought it down. This is like my first gradient right here. So I brought it down. It's not a complete 0 yet. So I pretty much just have it even like up to the point in my head I want it to go to. But in order for me to zero it out, I'm going to use this right here, these clippers, which are also my liners. Some people have balding clippers specifically for this. I don't necessarily care to have that. I prefer these. So I'm just going to use these Andis T-Outliners to zero out the rest of my head. So if you get close on the camera, Lex, you can see that it's not completely bald here yet. It's low, but it's not as bald as I need my fade to be at the bottom level. So I need it to get a little bit lower. Let me see how low it gets from here. Can you see the difference between this part and this part?
Yeah.
It's the difference. So that's what you want to focus on now, is just cleaning that up. Okay, so I'm pretty much zeroed out now. That's what, not necessarily a technical term, it's just what barbers say. Zero you out means I've balded you down to the level I need to start your fade. So plenty of different fade techniques, and I can fade myself multiple ways. The technique I like to use now is going from a 0 to a 1. So this is the 1 guard right here, that 1/8 inch. So if you don't have a Wahl clipper, it may not be a black guard, it may not look like this, but you just want to make sure that the inch is the same thing. The 1/8 inch is what you're looking for. So I'm gonna put this on here and I'm gonna close it. So now this is a closed 1. So whenever you say to your barber, I want a 1 on my head, this is what he's putting on. He's putting on a 1/8 inch and he's closing it. That's what a 1 is. If you say 1 open, that means there's more hair, and that's what I have on top, or 1 open on top of my head. So now I'm gonna go against the grain with this closed 1 to start the second gradient of my hair. Okay, so good to have one of these little handy brushes because you're always going to get a bunch of loose hair on your clipper. So I'm always just dusting that off so I don't get no clutter when I'm cutting. So now it's clean again. So now I'm going to start the fade. I have it zeroed out, then I have a 1 right here. I'm starting the fade, so the blade was closed when I was cutting with the 1. Now I'm opening it up from the bottom, and I'm going to fade going against the grain, but I'm not staying on my head as I did when I was using that 1 guard. I'm not staying to get to a certain level. I'm flicking out so that I can start to create a blur in my head. So that's what the flicking does. And a good fade technique is not using the entire blade. You want to use the corner of a blade to fade. So right now I'm just semi-fading it because I'm still going to be using most of the blade to fade up. But once you start getting into the fine details of the fade, you want to use the corner of a blade to start getting out those dark spots. So now I'm starting the second level of my level 1. And the level that I'm going up to the middle part of this. So I'm not taking this level all the way up to the bottom of this dark spot right here. I'm going up halfway, and that's where I'm stopping. I'm not keeping this and bringing it all the way up to the top. So I'm doing the same thing in the back. Sometimes you just want to check. Levers will sometimes close by themselves just because of the vibration of your clipper, and they'll start closing as you fade. So you just always want to make sure that you have it open so it's not getting lower and lower as you fade.
Can you show the open close one more time?
Yeah, so this is open, meaning you're cutting off less hair. When you close it,
Wait, do that one more time, it wasn't focused.
Open, less hair, close, cutting off more hair. Okay, so I just finished with the open blade, trying to create that blur effect now. There's no blur yet because I haven't really started fading. So the midpoint between this unprotected blade, so that just means it has no guard on it, and this number 1 is this blade right here, which is 1/16th of an inch. So the midpoint is just how much separation you have in between those little prongs right there. So the more prongs you have, the less hair you're gonna have on your head after you use it. So this is cutting off more hair than this, but less hair than the unprotected clipper. So now I'm putting this on because I need a midpoint from where I started right here, and then this black one, this is my midpoint. So what I'm doing now, I'm going to close this about halfway, and that's going to be the level that I use right in between where I use that half guard unprotected, and then the 1 guard all the way up to this level. So this is like my midpoint right here. So it's open halfway. Just be real careful that you don't take this level up into the darker part of your head, because then you're just gonna have to keep on taking your fade higher and higher. Okay, so that's just some minor detailing I was doing with that. Now I'm gonna start creating that blur on the bottom of this line. So now this close right here is not as low as this by itself. So this is like a level above this completely bald level, right? Which I got from my liners. So when I close this, that's when I can start to kind of take out this line between these two. So I'm gonna close that completely and just touch the bottom of that line to really start hitting the bottom of that fade. So I don't even want to get anywhere near the middle of my fade. And that line is not going to come all the way out, so I'm going to show y'all how to take that line out at the bottom too. As you can see, I'm starting to kind of create that blur effect, right? Because you know that's what good barbers do, we create that blur. But it's real simple, like I showed you, you can do it yourself. But now in order to get that little line out that you see, like this didn't get it out all the way close, no matter how close it is. Most clippers, especially a basic clipper like this, it's not gonna get that line out. So the same thing that you use to bald yourself out, you're still gonna wanna use that to take out that line. So now, instead of using it this way, the hard way that I used to take myself down to a 0, I'm gonna use it this way to flick out that line so that it's clean. said, one thing you might find yourself is creating another line with this. That's okay, because all I'm gonna do, if I feel like I just created another line, it's not gonna be as low when I first zeroed out my hair, because I went the opposite direction. So I'm gonna just come back with this closed again, and I'm gonna go right over top of those levels that are not as blurred as I want them to be. So this, I'm just closing it again, and I'm coming right back. Open it up a little bit because it gets a little bit darker right here. So I'll open them up about halfway, coming on that area now. You can see the top part of my head is still a little bit dark, and there's some work that needs to be done. So now we can go on to the third gradient. Okay, so remember originally I started evening out my hair, the very first step, with this one guard open, right? So that got me up to this level on my hair. It's still dark, and it's not low, so it's still a good wavelength for me. So in order to create this third gradient right here, I'm going to use this 1.5 guard, which is 3/16 of an inch, which is still pretty low, but it's not going to cut that much hair. And with Wahl, this white guard right here is always loose, and that's like universal. So whenever you put it on, you want to make sure it'll snap, but when I turn this clipper on, you'll hear how it rattles. That's because this guard, I don't know what Wahl does to this 1.5 guard, but it's just loose always. So you have to hold it in order for it to not shake like that. So instead of closing it all the way, like I did with the one guard, this one, to create this gradient, I'm going to open it halfway, because the top of my head is not, it's kind of hard to describe it, but in order to fade into something that you went down with, right? So this is halfway. You want to find something that is basically the equivalent to it, but going opposite. So the equivalent of this going down is this right here, basically halfway open. That's the equivalent of it. So in order to fade into it, you have to find the equivalent, but of the opposite direction. So this is the equivalent of it. So now I'm gonna hold this halfway open, and I'm gonna fade into this open one on top of my head. I've done the third gradient of my hair. I did that 0 at the bottom. I did that 1 right here. Now I started off with that 1.5 halfway open, right? So what I'm gonna do, I just wanna make sure this little part of my hair where it starts to bleed into the top of my head, I wanna make sure that that is flat. I wanna bring that down and make it even. So instead of using a 1.5 open, a 1 open the way I started it, I'm gonna bring it down a little bit lower. So it's like a 1 3/4 open, just to even this area right here out. And then, so now it's pretty much even on this side now. It's not that little thing poking out no more. Then I'm gonna take that 1.5 again, I'm gonna just clean it up from where I started off, just to make sure I don't have loose hair. So you'll still see hair coming down, even though I already brought it down with this level. cleanup right here. Just clean up, the street sweeper. Now, can you zoom in on this camera real quick? This section of my head is where I have those swirls. So whenever I cut my hair, even though I've been cutting for myself for 5 years, I still don't play with this area when I cut it down. So instead of me using this guard, trusting that I can follow the exact pattern of that swirl, it goes in so many directions that I'm just going to use a bigger guard to cut over that area. Changing it from this one guard to the level up, and I have it all the way open so that I can cut it any direction. I know that it's safe because it's all the way open, so it's not going to cut that much hair off. So I have it open, and I'm just going to go over the direction of the swirl. So now I just brought down the bulk of that hair, if you can see now, and that's going against the grain on it. So you always have little safety nets when you cut hair, and the safety net is always a guard. Just go up the level higher. Okay, so if you can see in the top of my head, they call the crown of your head right here, I still got a dark spot, right? Because when I cut, I'm not getting that far back into the top of my head. So now I just want to get a little bit closer to this mirror, just to make sure I don't cut into that swirl. I just want to bring that bolt down. Yep. Just like that. Just to make sure it's even with the rest of my head. This little spot is a little dark right here. So I'm just cutting that down. So now I basically have my third gradient completely done, and the blending that I would do on top from that third gradient, from the one that I started with, that open one, is pretty much done. The only thing that I want to finish with on the fade now is blending that third part, that third layer that I created. So now I'm gonna use a 1.5 guard again, but instead of it being halfway closed, I'm gonna use it all the way closed and start fading into it. The last step of this, so remember how we closed this guard all the way to kind of create that blur effect at the bottom when we were working on the balding area? This is the final step to creating that blur effect from that 1.5 guard we just used. So I want to use this one, but instead of it being all the way closed where I created this second gradient, I want it halfway closed so we can knock out this line that you see right here. Still a little bulk line that you see. So now you got to create that halfway open, and you can take out that line. Just comb that out. The higher I feel I have to get into the crown of my head in order to take out lines, the farther I'm opening that up. So it cuts out less hair. So I opened it up a little bit order to clean up the fade in here. This is the same thing your barber does when he's fading your head. In order to create a fade, every single level is not going to be 0, half, 1. Sometimes you got to open it up a little bit more. You know, 2/3 way, 3/4 open. So the detailing on the fade is pretty much done. Now the part that brings out a haircut is always the lineup. So a lot of different techniques for lineup. Some barbers like to line up upside down. It's not my style. Some barbers like to start from the side and curves and work their way up to the middle of the hair. Best practice and best technique that I've always used is starting from the middle of your lineup so that you can start evenly, right? So always comb your hair down when you got waves. Your front of your lineup may be a little curled up, so you just want to bring that down with the finest point of your comb. And I'm starting from the middle of my head, so I'm always looking straight into the mirror. I'm not even gonna look at this camera and mess myself up, because I will give myself a jagged hairline. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. If you're not looking dead at your hairline, you will mess it up. So I'm looking straight into the center of this mirror, and I'm starting from the middle of my head. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with the front of my hairline. If I want to make anything neater or crispier, I'll just come back after I'm done with the outline of the rest of my face. But now I'm working on the corners. So this part right here is a little bit darker than what I want it to be. So I'm gonna come in with this. This is like my favorite guard right here, because it's like a detailer. So anything that I feel is too low, anything I feel is too dark, I'm cleaning it up with this 1/16 guard. So I'm gonna clean this up a little bit all the way closed and just hit this little area right here just to lighten that up. Yeah. So now when I'm lining it up, it doesn't feel like I'm cutting off too much dark hair. You never want to be cutting to a point with the clippers that you can't see the start of the hair that you're cutting. You don't never want to be cutting in so far back that you're just pretty much creating a brand new lineup. So anytime I'm cutting it, I want to make sure I can see it and I'm pushing into it. That way I know I'm not pushing my line back. And then you can just clean it up like that. So I'm pushing into my hairline. This right here, I create that L. Okay, so that side is pretty much done until I get to my beard. Doing the same thing on this side. So my beard, I'm trying to keep a natural shape. I'm waiting until our wedding day, August 30th, 2020, to actually touch like anything up here. I want it to grow as full as possible. So the only thing that I touch when I line up my beard is my neck hair down here. So I have neck hair that'll grow, and that stuff gotta get cleaned up. Mind you, I haven't got cut in a month, in a week or something like that. So that's the only thing I'll really touch. And then I'm also gonna fade this into the temple. I mean, my temple into my fade. So I'm gonna start off here. All I do, pretty much comb that down. Make sure I go over here. And then I pretty much just follow the shape that I already have. Anything that's new growth is leaving. So the bottom of my beard is pretty much good. Don't take that much. To fade into the temple, so my beard is growing a little bit thicker. So of course I want to even it out because I got a lot of unhealthy growth at this point. Anything, the lowest part of your beard is always the oldest part of your hair. So I'm going to trim it down a little bit just to make sure my stuff is growing consistently. Even it out. For my mustache, everybody's mustache is different. So some people, their mustache will look the same length or thickness as mine, but I have to use a different guard because their hair is just different. I usually cut it down with a 1 all the way open just to bring it down so that I'm not eating my mustache hair. And then to fade into the temple, I'm using this 1 guard and I'm closing it, and I'm starting like right above my earlobe to fade into it. So with this one is a little bit more step by step. You can kind of follow this, and this is a pretty simple process. So I used that 1.5 guard, now I'm using that 1 guard, still closed. Now I'm about halfway into the amount that I started fading, so I'm about halfway into that. Now I'm gonna take it off, then I'm gonna open it all the way. That's like the next level up. I'm gonna open it all the way up, and I'm gonna go about 1/4 into the level I was cutting in. Then I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna hit the top of it. In order to get that complete blend the way I want, I'm gonna have to use this bar because this level right here is bald. So in order to fade into it, some element of that top of your beard has to be hit with this part too. So. Simple. A little spot right here that I want to hit a little bit just to get that out. Need line out. So I'm gonna just use this and I'm gonna open it up about 3/4. I'm gonna barely hit it. And that's pretty much fading that into the temple of your head. All right, so the final step is for me putting on my glasses so I can see thoroughly. Taking this mirror and making sure that the front of my haircut is good and then the back of my haircut is good. All right, so I'm just looking at the side. I see a little spot back here that I want to clean up a little bit. Blend that up. This side looks beautiful. This side's looking beautiful. Literally just this little part right here, that's the only thing I want to clean up. And then the rest of my haircut is solid. So this is the only little part right here that I want to patch up. So all I'm going to do is take my detailer. Remember I said this is my favorite guard right here. This 1.5 is my favorite guard. I mean this half guard is my favorite guard. Because anything that you see that's not low enough, you can play with every single level of this and clean it up. So I'm gonna just take that mirror. See the spot that I want to clean up? Right now it's all the way open, so it takes off the least amount of hair as possible. Okay, so that's pretty much it. After you check out the entire detail of your cut in that mirror, all you want to do is just make sure that you're clean. Lineup is how you want it to look. Dust yourself off and disinfect. So I like to disinfect with rubbing alcohol. Some people always say like, man, that stuff burns too much. I like it just because I know I'm not going to get any bumps. And especially in my neck area. Black men, we get a lot of ingrown hair bumps, which is called folliculitis, something like that. Folliculitis, I don't know, something like that. But you have to make sure that you put some type of disinfectant after your haircut, no matter if you're using your own clippers or not. Just because the irritation of steel or metal on skin is always going to cause some type of flare up. So make sure you have a good disinfectant. It can be sea breeze, which is a little bit more expensive. That's the stuff barbers typically use, or alcohol, some type of, you know, it may be in the health kit or whatever, just something that has a little bit of alcohol in it, alcohol content. But other than that, man, that's the cut. And very simple. Take you probably about an hour and a half when you first start. You'll bring it down to about 45 minutes when you get good at it. So let me know if you got questions.